what you mentioned before as well of prophets and um, the reverence they have for prophets,
Yeah.
is it is it similar considering Latter Day Saints and Muslims? Is it a similar case with revelation, or how do both faiths approach revelation?
For Muslims, overwhelmingly, Muhammad was the last prophet, the Khatam an-Nabiyyin, the seal of
Right.
the prophets, which they tend to take to mean he's the last one. I'm not sure that I see it that way. I think of more like a seal on a letter. In the old days, when a king sent a letter to a subordinate, he would seal it with wax and stamp it with the royal signet. Which meant this is authentic, and if the seal hasn't been broken, then you can trust the orders that are given in this letter. They come from the king. Only he or the Lord Privy Seal has command of that seal. Um, so in that sense, the seal is a sign of authenticity. And almost always when that phrase occurs in the Quran, it's talking about how the Quran confirms what went before, or as the Arabic says, "ma baina yadayhim," what is between their hands or between your hands. That is what you've got in front of you. It's confirming those stories are true that you've heard about the prophets and so on. Uh, but nevertheless, it's been taken by almost all Muslims that Muhammad is the last. There won't be another one. So there is no large movement in Islam that expects contemporary revelation. Although some will talk about having received spiritual experience. There's a thinker who died in the 11th century, 12th early 12th century, 1111, named Al-Ghazali, of whom I'm really fond, and he has the first autobiography in the Islamic world, as far as I'm aware. He tells about how he went through a period of real doubt. And how did he achieve his conviction? Well, through divine inspiration that cast a light into my breast, he says, that I could not deny. Now, he says, I can't give it to you. You have to get it for yourself, but I can tell you the story of how I got it. And it's the confirmation that prophecy is possible. There is a God, so on and so forth. That's a very uh, resonant passage, I think, for Latter Day Saint readers. We would say, yeah, that's the kind of experience we talk about, where suddenly, in some way that you can't really transfer, you can tell other people about it, but you can't transfer it to anyone. Then you can say, yeah, I know, I have this assurance. And that is so that's one area where I think we're on the same page as far as ongoing revelation goes to individuals. Um, and another powerful point of contact between the Muslim experience as they live it and ours.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything similar to that with the afterlife, and how a Muslim believes they would gain salvation?
Yeah. Well, they believe that you have to live the rules. Um, and there are actually things in the Quran that suggest that there are multiple levels in heaven.
Oh,
Um,
right.
yeah, there are places that are closer to God, places that are still in heaven, but not as close to God, further away. And they have to do with degrees of righteousness and so on. So that too, I don't think that Muslims make a great deal of that, but it's strewn throughout the Quran. I'm actually working on a manuscript someday that will appear, I hope, um, where I lay out some of that, because it's really amazing how many clues there are to that kind of thing. And yet I usually hear Muslims talking about simply an-nar, the fire, flame, hell, versus al-jinnah, the garden. But the garden is not one place in the Quran. It's multiple places, very, very different from each other. So to make it to the garden is not necessarily to achieve the highest degree that you could. And the Quran actually uses the word darajat, which means degrees, which is probably in some sense related to our word degree. It's probably a loan word from maybe Latin.